The crystal tower rose into the purple sky of Velrian Prime, glowing like frozen light. Inside the great halls, voices mixed together. Delegates from many worlds walked under shining arches. Some had shimmering scales, some had long ears, some looked almost human except for their strange eyes. They were here for peace talks, but the air felt uneasy. Jake Morrison stood near a tall window, dressed in the dark green armor of the Terran Defense Force. His rifle was strapped across his chest, and his sharp eyes scanned everyone who passed. He had been a soldier for 8 years. Guard duty was supposed to be simple, yet his instincts whispered danger. He thought of his younger sister, Emma, back on Earth. She had hugged him before he left and made him promise not to do anything reckless. He had joked that it would be the safest job of his life. Now, standing here in the busy hall, he regretted saying that. Most aliens kept their distance from the humans. They respected human courage but feared human strength. Jake noticed the nervous glances and the small steps people took to avoid coming too close. He didn't blame them. In the last war, humans had proved they were hard to stop. Suddenly, he heard soft footsteps behind him. A reflection in the window showed a young girl walking toward him. Pale blue skin, silver hair, a white dress with gold patterns. Jake recognized her instantly, Princess Lysara of the Velriani Empire. She stopped in front of him, her purple eyes full of curiosity. "Hello, are you from Earth?" she asked in a gentle voice. Jake straightened. "Yes, Your Highness. Staff Sergeant Jake Morrison. I have never met a human before," she said. "Is it true your world has only one intelligent species?" Jake nodded. "Just humans. And some pets. Dogs. Cats. They don't talk, but we treat them like family." Lysara smiled. "We have small winged creatures like that. They sing beautifully." She studied him more closely. "You look very strong. Are all humans like this?" Before Jake could answer, his earpiece crackled. "Morrison, report," Lieutenant Kyle Harris said. The tension in his voice was unmistakable. Jake touched the device. "I'm here. Unknown ships have appeared at the edge of the system," Kyle said. "No identification. No response. Going to security level yellow. Stay sharp." "Copy," Jake said. Princess Lysara watched worry form on his face. "Is something wrong?" Jake scanned the hall again. Everything looked normal. Music, laughter, the smell of food. But something in the sky was coming closer. "Probably nothing," he said softly. "But I should stay alert." She nodded politely and stepped away, though disappointment showed in her eyes. Night settled outside. The summit celebration began in the grand hall. Music played, lights danced along the crystal walls, and banners floated like glowing ribbons. Jake moved to his next position near the main entrance. His eyes stayed focused. His instincts stayed tight. His earpiece fed him updates. The unknown ships were still approaching. Then the lights flickered. Off. On. A few delegates laughed nervously. Jake didn't. His hand tightened on his rifle. The alarms activated suddenly, echoing through the tower. All units. Multiple hostile signatures entering atmosphere. Kyle's voice shouted. "This is not a drill." The music stopped. Silence froze the hall. Then the first explosion hit. The floor shook under Jake's boots. A fireball erupted far below, sending cracks up the tower. Windows shattered. Screams filled the hall as glowing shards rained down. Jake inhaled once. The comm guard disappeared. The soldier took over. Smoke rolled through the shattered hall as terrified delegates ran in every direction. Tables flipped. Glass crunched under boots. The air tasted like burning metal. Jake didn't hesitate. His training kicked in instantly. "Everyone move. Stay low," he shouted, guiding civilians toward the emergency exits. Another explosion ripped through the lower floors. The shockwave threw people off their feet. Alien guards tried forming defense lines, but they were overwhelmed by panic. Jake saw armored figures climbing through the broken windows, black armor, glowing red visors, heavy rifles humming with energy. The Craven Raiders. Jake's chest tightened. He knew these monsters. During the last war, they were the kind of enemy who burned villages, took prisoners for ransom, and left nothing alive if the price was high. Seeing them here meant only one thing. They were after someone valuable. Blaster shots erupted. Red streaks tore across the hall, hitting walls, decorations, and unlucky civilians. Jake ducked behind a fallen pillar and fired back. His rifle barked loudly, kicking against his shoulder. He hit one raider, then another, but more poured in. A scream cut through the chaos. A young voice. Jake turned and saw her, Princess Lysara, crouched behind an overturned table, hands shaking, tears streaming down her dusty face. Her guards were gone. 3 raiders were moving toward her like wolves closing on prey. Jake didn't think. He ran. He leaped over debris and fired nonstop. Energy bolts blasted around him, but he didn't slow down. 1 raider fell. Another ducked. The 3rd aimed at Lysara, but Jake reached her first. "Get down," he shouted. He wrapped an arm around her and moved her behind a collapsed support beam just as the ceiling groaned. A giant crack split across the roof. Dust rained down. Jake looked up, and his instincts screamed. He grabbed Lysara tight. Then the ceiling collapsed. Stone and metal crashed down on them. Everything went dark in a cloud of dust and fire. Jake felt the crushing weight slam into his back, pinning him to the ground. Pain shot through his ribs and legs. His ears rang so loudly, he couldn't hear his own voice. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. Then he remembered. Lysara was under him. He forced air into his lungs and croaked. "Princess, are you alive?" A tiny tremble came from beneath him. Then her weak whisper reached his ears. I think so." Relief washed over him. He pushed against the slab on his back. It didn't move. His arms shook. His shoulder screamed. But humans weren't known for giving up. He tried again. First a small shift. Then another. His muscles burned like fire, but he kept pushing. Slowly, painfully, the heavy blocks slid enough for him to crawl forward, dragging the princess with him. Fresh air reached them at last. They collapsed on the broken floor, gasping. Jake scanned himself. Armor cracked. Shoulder bruised. Cuts on his arms. Nothing life-threatening. His rifle lay bent beside him, but it still worked. He checked Lysara next. Her dress was torn, her skin covered in dust, but she was alive. Her wide purple eyes stared at the ruins in shock. This was supposed to be safe," she whispered. Jake placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "It isn't anymore. And they're looking for you." Her breath hitched. "Why me?" "Because you're worth a lot to them. But I won't let them take you." He tried his earpiece. "Harris, this is Morrison. Do you copy?" Static. Then a broken reply. "Morrison, thank. Alive, situation bad. Craven everywhere. Evacuate. Beta if." The signal died. Jake clenched his jaw. They were on their own. He stood up, ignoring the pain, and reloaded his rifle. "Princess, listen carefully. Stay close to me. Do what I say exactly when I say it. Understand?" She nodded quickly. Jake looked down the dark, ruined hallway. Fires burned. Distant screams echoed. Shadows moved. The entire tower had become a battlefield. He took a deep breath. "Let's move," he said. And together, human soldier and alien princess stepped into the destruction, knowing the worst was still ahead. The hallway ahead was a graveyard of smoke, sparks, and fallen beams. Every step Jake took echoed with danger. His body ached from the collapse, but he ignored the pain. Pain was just noise. Survival mattered more. Princess Lysara stayed right behind him, clutching the torn remains of her dress to keep from tripping. Her breaths were shaky, but she kept moving. She didn't cry now. She didn't scream. She only watched Jake's back as if it were the only safe thing left in the world. They reached a stairwell door hanging crooked on broken hinges. Jake gently pulled it open and listened. The stairwell was dark except for flickering emergency lights. The air smelled of smoke and burning wires. "We're going down," Jake whispered. "Stay close. Don't talk unless you have to." Lysara nodded. They started descending. The tower groaned above them, metal shifting under stress. Distant blaster fire echoed through the floors. Jake counted the levels as they passed. 5, 6, 7. Then he froze. Footsteps. Heavy, synchronized. Coming upward. Jake's instincts flared. Raiders. He grabbed Lysara's hand and pulled her through the nearest floor door. They slipped into a hallway with working lights, a dangerous thing, because it meant they could be seen clearly. He scanned quickly. No enemies. But nowhere to hide. Then he spotted a maintenance closet. Jake opened it quietly, pushed Lysara inside, then stepped in after her and closed the door. They stood in pitch darkness, surrounded by shelves, tools, and the smell of cleaning chemicals. Lysara's breathing sped up. Jake gently touched her arm. "Quiet," he whispered. The footsteps grew louder. Voices followed, harsh, clicking sounds of the Craven language. They stopped right outside the closet door. Jake raised his rifle, aiming at the door handle. His finger rested lightly on the trigger. If the raiders opened the door, he would shoot. No hesitation. No warnings. Lasara trembled beside him. Jake moved slightly to shield her with his body in the cramped space. The door handle rattled. Lasara gasped softly, then covered her mouth with both hands. Jake's heart hammered, but his breathing stayed steady. He had been in situations like this before. Close calls, tight escapes, but never with a teenage princess relying on him to survive. Someone barked an order in the Craven tongue. The raider at the door responded, then stepped away. The footsteps faded down the hallway. Jake exhaled slowly and lowered his rifle. That was close, Lasara whispered. Too close, Jake replied. We keep moving. After waiting a few more minutes, they left the closet and continued in the opposite direction from the raiders. Half the hallway was destroyed. Cracks spidered across the walls. Pieces of ceiling lay everywhere. Smoke drifted through broken vents. The tower cried like a wounded giant. Jake found an open window at the end of the hall and looked out. The view made his stomach tighten. The entire city burned. Fires lit the night like orange rivers. Ships streaked across the sky, trading fire. Towers collapsed in the distance. It was no longer a small attack. This was a full-scale assault on the capital. Lasara stepped beside him, her face falling. My people, my city. Jake had no comfort to offer. Instead, he spoke truth. Right now, surviving is the only thing that matters. We'll help who we can, but I need to get you somewhere safe first. He turned away from the window and continued down the hall, searching for supplies. They found a half-wrecked med station. Most of it was burned or looted, but Jake grabbed whatever he could: bandages, antiseptic, painkillers. Lasara searched too, handing him items she found intact. You know so much about danger and war, she said suddenly, watching him work. Jake paused. Memories of battlefields, fallen friends, and long nights flashed through his mind. Experience, he said quietly. And mistakes. You don't seem scared, she whispered. I am, Jake replied. Fear keeps you alive if you don't let it control you. Lasara nodded slowly, absorbing his words. They found a small kitchen area nearby, battered, with scorch marks on the walls, but it had water bottles and packaged food bars. Jake stuffed them into a bag. As he worked, Lasara stared at him with a puzzled expression. Why did you come for me? She finally asked. When the ceiling fell. When the attack began. You could have run and saved yourself. Jake stopped packing and looked straight at her. Because you're someone's daughter, he said simply. And where I come from, we don't abandon people. Ever. Lasara's eyes filled with emotion. She wiped them quickly. Thank you, Jake, she whispered. I won't forget what you did. Jake slung the supply bag over his shoulder and checked his damaged rifle one more time. Outside, the city screamed with explosions. Inside, Jake made a silent promise. He would get her out of here, no matter what. Let's go, he said softly. And together, they stepped deeper into the broken tower, unaware that the worst danger was still waiting below. The deeper they moved into the ruined tower, the louder the battle grew. Explosions shook the floors. Loose dust floated down like gray snow. Every hallway felt more dangerous than the last. They reached an intersection where two corridors met. Jake paused, raising a fist. Stop. Lasara froze immediately. Voices echoed down the left side. Different tones. Not Craven. Jake risked a quick peek. Inside a half-collapsed conference room, 3 survivors huddled together. One was a human woman in a medical uniform, her sleeve torn and stained with blood. The other 2 were tall, gray-skinned aliens with 4 arms each. One held his wrist in pain, clearly injured. Jake stepped into view with his rifle held low but ready. Friendly, he called quietly. Terran Defense Force. Don't shoot. The medic spun around, her hand going to a small pistol at her hip. When she saw the Terran emblem on Jake's armor, her shoulders dropped in relief. Oh, thank God, she breathed. I'm Corporal Avery Chun. Medical Corps. She eyed Lasara. And is that Princess Lasara? Jake confirmed. She's alive. For now. Avery's eyes widened. Half the city thinks she's dead. She won't be, Jake said firmly. Not if I can help it. One of the 4-armed aliens stepped forward. We seek the evacuation zone, he said. But we are lost. Jake shook his head. The evacuation routes are compromised. Craven locked them down. A heavy silence fell. But, Jake continued, If we get outside the central district, we might reach a safe point. The injured alien nodded slowly. Our embassy keeps a hidden safe house. 3 kilometers from here. Supplies. Long-range communication. Jake calculated quickly. 5 people. 1 injured delegate. A princess the raiders would kill for. Limited ammo. A burning city crawling with enemies. The odds were terrible, but better than staying here. Jake nodded. We move together. Quiet. Fast. You follow exactly what I say. Avery helped the injured delegate stand. Lasara moved to Jake's side, closer now, as if she belonged there. They slipped through the corridor, staying low. Jake led the group through rooms instead of hallways whenever possible. Open spaces were death traps. He avoided windows, avoided noise, avoided light. For a while, everything went smoothly. Then they entered a ruined parking structure. The moment Jake stepped inside, his stomach tightened. Open space. Too quiet. His instincts screamed, danger. A buzzing sound drifted in from the far side. Jake looked up and cursed under his breath. 3 craven drones hovered above them, blinking with red sensors. Run! Jake shouted. The group sprinted across the structure. The drones followed, engines whining. Jake fired, but his rifle's bent barrel ruined his aim. The shots flew wide. The drones dipped lower. Down the stairs. Jake yelled. They burst out of the parking structure onto a street filled with debris. Fires roared around them. The sky rumbled with the sound of distant explosions. Vehicles approached, fast. Craven. Jake scanned wildly. Left, collapsed buildings. Right, open plaza, no cover. Forward, a tall building with blasted doors. Inside, Jake ordered. They raced through the doors just as the raider vehicles skidded into the street behind them. The moment Jake entered the lobby, he heard boots pounding after them. Downstairs, he shouted, spotting a stairwell. They descended into darkness. Avery used a tiny flashlight to guide them. The raiders flooded the building above, shouting commands. Their boots echoed like thunder. The basement was a maze, narrow corridors, storage rooms, broken piping. Jake led them deeper, trying to lose the pursuers. But the raiders spread out, sweeping every corner. Jake heard them closing in from 2 sides. A trap. They ran into a dead end, a solid concrete wall. Jake cursed under his breath. Lasara grabbed his sleeve, terrified. Avery raised her pistol, hands shaking. The delegates pressed against the wall, trapped. The raiders drew closer. Voices echoed down the corridor. Jake scanned desperately and saw a maintenance shaft. Narrow, dark, but a chance. He pointed. There. Move. But before they reached it, 6 raiders appeared at the hallway intersection behind them, opening fire. Energy bolts cracked into the walls. The group dove behind thick pipes. Jake fired back. Avery fired too, each shot careful. The delegates hid behind metal crates. Jake's rifle clicked empty. Last magazine gone. He switched to his pistol. Shots ricocheted. Pipes burst. Hot steam filled the air. But the raiders kept coming. Avery yelled over the noise. We can't hold them. There's too many. Jake knew she was right. The raiders pushed forward in a tight formation. Someone would die here. He looked at Lasara. She met his eyes, fear trembling through her. He swallowed hard. Corporal, Jake said, voice steady. Take the princess and go up the shaft. That's an order. Avery shook her head. Not leaving you. That's an order. Jake roared. Go. But Lasara didn't run. She didn't retreat. Instead, she sprinted to a fallen raider, grabbed his heavy energy rifle with both hands, and struggled to hold its weight. She stepped beside Jake, shaking but brave. I'm not leaving you, she said firmly. If humans don't abandon their people, then neither will I. Jake stared at her in shock. Then a slow, proud smile touched his bruised face. All right, princess, he whispered. We fight together. The raiders charged. Jake raised his pistol. Lasara raised her stolen rifle. Avery cursed and raised her pistol again. The basement erupted into chaos. And the battle for all their lives began. The basement roared with the sounds of war. Energy bolts flashed through the darkness, turning pipes and crates into glowing, smoking metal. The air grew hot from the exchange of fire. Dust swirled around them like fog. Jake stepped forward, placing himself between the princess and the incoming raiders. His pistol fired again and again, controlled, accurate, each shot meant to slow the enemy's advance. Lasara held the stolen rifle tightly, her hands trembling. The weapon hummed with unstable power. She squeezed the trigger. A bright blast shot past Jake's shoulder, smashing into the wall and sending fragments everywhere. Jake ducked. "Careful, princess." I'm trying," she cried, lifting it again. It didn't matter that she missed. The raiders ducked behind cover, startled that a princess was firing at them at all. It bought Jake seconds, precious seconds. Avery Chun crouched beside a crate, firing her last rounds with sharp precision. Each shot dropped a raider. "2 magazines left," she yelled. Jake didn't answer. He couldn't. He was locked in battle mode, every sense focused. More raiders stormed in from the left corridor. The maintenance room shook from their boots. The 2 Ion delegates crouched together, protecting the injured one with their 4 arms, shouting warnings whenever they saw movement. Jake took cover behind a beam and leaned out to fire. His pistol snapped empty. He slammed in his final magazine. 15 rounds. 15 chances to survive. The raiders pushed forward, firing nonstop. A bolt hit the wall beside Lasara, showering her with sparks. She gasped but didn't run. She aimed again and pressed the trigger. This time her shot hit the ceiling, but the flash blinded 2 raiders long enough for Avery to hit one of them. The Ion delegate shouted. More coming from the stairs. They were being surrounded. Jake's heartbeat pounded in his ears. "We have to move. They'll box us in." But there was nowhere left to go. The shaft they aimed for was now cut off by raiders. Behind them was the dead end. A sharp whistling sound echoed, small, metallic. Jake's stomach dropped. "Grenade," he yelled. The small metal sphere bounced across the floor and rolled toward them, glowing red. Jake grabbed Lasara and threw them both behind a concrete pillar. Avery dove behind a crate, pulling one of the delegates with her. The other threw himself flat on the ground. The grenade exploded. A wave of heat, shrapnel, and light slammed through the room. Jake felt metal rip across his back and arm. His ears rang painfully again. The pillar protected them from the blast, but the shockwave knocked him and Lasara onto the ground. Jake pushed himself up, gasping for air. He could feel warm blood sliding down his shoulder. He looked at Lasara. She was shaking, coughing, but alive. "Princess, you okay?" She nodded weakly. "Yes, but Jake, you're bleeding." He wiped his arm. "I've had worse." The raiders advanced through the smoke. At least 15. Jake raised his pistol. Lasara gripped her rifle tighter, though her arms were trembling from exhaustion. A looming shadow stepped through the smoke, taller than the others, wearing darker armor marked with jagged symbols. His helmet slid back, revealing a scarred face and sharp predator eyes. Avery whispered shakily, "That's him. Commander Vargon, their leader." Vargon looked around at the injured group, his expression calm and cold. "You humans are troublesome," he said. "But it ends now. Hand over the princess, and the rest of you may live." Jake stepped forward, blood dripping from his wrist, face hardened. "You're wasting your breath." Vargon tilted his head. "You would die for her." Jake didn't flinch. "I'll die before I let you touch her." Lasara stepped beside Jake, placing herself at his side. Her voice shook, but her eyes held fire. "And I won't leave him." Vargon's smile vanished. "Then you both die." He raised his long energy blade, aiming to strike. His raiders shifted behind him, joining the charge. Jake whispered to Lasara without looking at her. "When they rush, stay behind me." She whispered back, voice tiny but fierce. "No, I'm fighting too." The raiders roared. They charged. Jake fired the last of his pistol rounds in fast, desperate bursts. Avery shot until her pistol clicked dry. The Ion delegates threw metal tools, anything they could grab. Vargon lunged at Jake with terrifying speed. The blade slashed downward. Jake blocked with his forearm, pain ripping up his arm. His pistol fell from his hand. He grabbed Vargon's weapon wrist with both hands, muscles straining. Vargon pushed back, clearly stronger. Their feet scraped across the floor as they fought for control. "Jake!" Lasara screamed. A raider aimed at Jake's back. Lasara fired. Her shot hit the raider full force, dropping him instantly. Shock hit her face, but she kept firing, this time with aim. Jake used the single second Lasara bought him. He twisted Vargon's wrist, forcing the blade sideways. The commander growled. Jake drove his knee into Vargon's ribs, then slammed his forehead into the alien's nose. Bone cracked. Vargon stumbled. Jake snatched the fallen blade and plunged it into the gap in the commander's armor. Vargon dropped to his knees, gasping. The rest of the raiders saw their commander fall, and panic hit them. "Fall back," one shouted. Chaos erupted. They fled the basement in a desperate rush. Jake watched them go, breathing hard, vision blurry. Avery lowered her pistol arm. Is it over?" Jake knelt slowly, the blade shaking in his grip. He dropped it. It clattered loud against the cement. Lasara rushed to him. Jake, are you all right?" He tried to answer, but his legs collapsed under him. As he fell forward, Lasara caught him with both arms, her voice trembling. "Jake, stay with me, please." Darkness swept over him as the sound of human rescue forces finally thundered down the stairwell. He heard one last thing before blacking out. Lasara's voice, desperate and breaking. "Don't you dare die, Jake." Jake floated in darkness for what felt like hours. Voices echoed far away. Lights flickered behind his eyelids. Pain pulsed through his chest and arms. Everything felt distant, heavy muted. Then a gentle voice reached him. "Jake, please open your eyes." He groaned and blinked. A ceiling came into focus, smooth, bright, clean. Not smoke. Not falling debris. Not fire. A medical chamber. He was alive. Jake tried to sit up, but a sharp pain tore through his ribs. He winced and fell back. "Don't move yet," a doctor said. "You're healing, but you're not ready to stand." Jake looked to his right and saw her. Princess Lasara sat in a chair beside him, her silver hair clean again, her blue skin glowing softly under the lights. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but when she saw him awake, relief washed over her like sunlight. "Jake, you're awake," she whispered, voice trembling. He tried to smile. "Princess, you're okay. I am because of you," she said. "You almost died protecting me. Twice." Jake swallowed. His throat felt dry. "What happened after I fell?" Lasara wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "The rescue teams arrived. They fought off the remaining raiders and found us in the basement. Lieutenant Harris carried you himself. You lost a lot of blood, everyone thought." She stopped talking, tears returning. Jake reached up and gently touched her wrist. "Hey, I'm still here." A quiet knock interrupted them. Lieutenant Harris stepped in, uniform dusty, eyes tired, but smiling. There he is, the toughest man in the galaxy. Jake groaned. "Kyle, you look terrible." Kyle snorted. "You should see yourself." The doctor cleared his throat. "He needs rest. Broken ribs, torn muscles, deep cuts, infection starting. Honestly, it's a miracle he survived." "Humans are stubborn," Kyle said. "Especially this one." Jake looked around. "How long was I out?" "For days," Kyle said. "The Empress has been waiting to see you." Jake's eyes widened. "The Empress?" Lasara nodded softly. "My mother. She wants to thank you personally." Jake blinked. "I saved you. That's all." "That is everything," Lasara said. "To her, and to me." Jake looked away for a moment. He wasn't used to praise. He was used to battlefields, not gratitude. Not warmth. Not someone crying over him. Kyle stepped closer. "The city is safe now. The coalition pushed the Craven out completely. The summit will be rebuilt. And thanks to you, humans and Valriani are now closer than ever." Jake rubbed his forehead. "All I did was survive." "No," Lasara whispered. "You didn't just survive. You chose to protect me when everyone else ran. You carried me through fire. You fought their commander alone. You gave me hope when everything was falling apart." Her voice broke. She didn't hide the tears this time. Jake had no answer. He didn't feel like the hero she described. He felt like a tired soldier who just refused to die. The doctor stepped out, giving them space. Kyle followed him. That left only Jake and Lasara in the quiet room. She moved her chair closer. Her hands shook as she held his. "When I thought you weren't going to wake up, I prayed to every star I knew. I thought I lost you." Jake squeezed her hand gently. "I promised I'd get you home." "You did more than that," she whispered. "You made me feel safe in the darkest moment of my life." He studied her face. No fear now, only gratitude, and something deeper. "Lasara," he said softly, "you were brave too. You fought beside me. You saved my life." Her cheeks colored faintly. "I only did it because you taught me how to be brave." Their hands stayed locked together. Neither spoke. The quiet moment felt heavier than any battle. After a long silence, Lasara whispered, "My mother wants to give you a medal. But, more than that, she wants to thank you. Personally. As a mother. Not an empress." Jake exhaled slowly. "I don't know what to say to a ruler of an empire." "Just be you," Lasara said softly. That is more than enough. Jake closed his eyes. The exhaustion finally settled into his bones. When is this ceremony? He asked quietly. This afternoon, she replied. Jake opened one eye. I have to walk. You have to stand, she said with a tiny smile. He groaned. Great. Lasara leaned closer and whispered, Don't worry. I'll be right beside you. Jake felt warmth spread through his chest, different from pain. Something human. Something real. He nodded. Okay, princess. She smiled. Just call me Lasara. After what we survived, formal titles feel silly. Jake smirked weakly. All right, Lasara. For the first time since waking up, she truly smiled. And Jake realized the hardest part wasn't surviving the attack. The hardest part was what would come next. But he wasn't alone anymore. Not in this world. Not in this galaxy. Jake stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the collar of his freshly cleaned dress uniform. His ribs still hurt, his arms still throbbed, and every movement sent small shocks of pain across his torso, but he ignored it. Soldiers learned early, pain means you're alive. A palace escort waited outside the medical room. Sergeant Morrison, he said, bowing slightly. The Empress is ready. Jake nodded and stepped into the hallway. The building around him gleamed with white stone and blue crystal. Guards lined the passage, their armor shining like polished silver. Every alien who saw him paused and bowed in respect. It made Jake uncomfortable. He wasn't used to praise. He was used to dust, fire, and shouting orders, not royal ceremonies. The throne room doors opened. The moment Jake stepped inside, the room fell silent. Hundreds of diplomats and officers stood beneath the towering ceiling. Light from tall windows poured across the polished floor like rivers of gold. And at the far end, on a raised platform, stood Empress Velrada. Tall, blue-skinned, regal. Her silver hair cascaded down her shoulders. Her purple eyes, so much like her daughter's, stared directly at Jake with a warmth that seemed to fill the room. Beside her, Lasara stood in a flowing white gown that glimmered as she breathed. She smiled the instant she saw him, the kind of smile that reached the eyes and softened the world. Jake walked forward slowly, trying not to limp. Whispers followed him, words in dozens of languages. That's the human soldier. He fought the Craven commander alone. He protected the princess. He saved the alliance. Jake kept his eyes forward. He didn't come here for attention. He came because he made a promise. When he reached the platform, he saluted sharply. Your Majesty. The Empress stepped down from her throne. It shocked the entire room. Royals did not step down for anyone. She stopped in front of Jake, her expression full of emotion. Staff Sergeant Jake Morrison, she said, voice soft but strong. My daughter lives because of you. My people have hope because of you. My empire owes you a debt we can never repay. Jake shook his head slightly. I just did what any soldier should do. No, the Empress said firmly. You did what only a human would do. The hall grew quiet. She continued. You stood against an army with nothing but courage. You shielded my daughter with your own body. You bled for her. You fought when you should have fallen. You showed my people what humanity truly is. She opened a small velvet box. Inside rested a crystal medal shaped like a star, glowing faintly with blue light. This is the Star of Eternal Honor, the Empress said. It has been awarded only 6 times in our entire history. Today, for the first time, it goes to a human. She pinned it to his uniform. And then, something no one expected, she bowed deeply to him. The entire room gasped. Diplomats, generals, nobles, every single one dropped to their knees or bowed low. Jake felt the air catch in his chest. He had never imagined anything like this. When the bowing ended, Lasara stepped down from the platform and approached him. Her smile trembled, full of memories and gratitude. Jake, she said softly, I told you my mother wanted to thank you. Jake chuckled weakly. This is more than I expected. Lasara took his hands lightly. You earned it. The Empress spoke again. Tonight, you will join us for a private dinner. As family, not as soldier and royalty. Jake hesitated. I don't know if I. Lasara squeezed his hand. You're coming, she said firmly. No arguments. Jake smiled. Yes, princess. She blushed. I told you, call me Lasara. That evening, Jake sat at a beautifully carved table with the Empress, Lasara, Lieutenant Harris, and a few close allies. The room was warm, filled with soft light and quiet laughter. They ate, they talked, they told stories. Lasara described how Jake shielded her from the collapsing ceiling. Kyle told embarrassing stories about Jake from their early training days. The Empress listened to every detail with tears and smiles. For the first time in years, Jake felt peaceful. No battles, no alarms, no orders, just people, friends. A strange little family formed during chaos. Later that night, as the stars twinkled outside the balcony, Jake stepped aside to call Earth. His sister Emma answered instantly. "Jake, you're alive." He laughed. "Yes, still in one piece." Lasara peeked into frame. "Hello, Emma." Emma blinked. "Oh wow, she's pretty. Is this the princess who saved your stubborn life?" Jake groaned. Lasara laughed. "Actually, he saved mine." Emma smirked. "Sounds like my brother. Always making life complicated." Jake ended the call with a soft smile. 3 weeks later, Jake prepared to return to active duty. His injuries had healed thanks to advanced Velriani medicine. His ship waited at the spaceport. Lasara stood with him, looking down at her hands. I will miss you." Jake nodded. "I'll miss you too." "Will you come back?" she asked quietly. He smiled. "I'll try. And you're always welcome on Earth. I'll show you everything. Even real pizza." Lasara smiled through her tears. "I would like that." She hugged him tightly. Jake hugged her back. Then he boarded the shuttle. As it lifted into the sky, he saw her, standing beside her mother, waving. Her silver hair blew in the warm wind. Her eyes stayed on him until the ship vanished into the clouds. Jake leaned back in his seat, staring at the stars ahead. Humans weren't the strongest, or the smartest, or the fastest, but they were something else. They were the ones who stood back up, the ones who ran toward danger, the ones who protected others, even strangers. Jake smiled faintly. Yeah, humans were different. And in a galaxy filled with darkness, humans were the spark that refused to die.